That's just it, you guys. The only networks from NBCUniversal and Comcast being kept in the United States will only be the core brands NBC, Bravo, Telemundo, Telecitos, um, Universal, and that's probably it. And especially Comcast Sports Network that has been revived a few days ago. Ever since Universal Studios was founded in 1912, it has been the first major studio in our country. Now, you might have known what Universal Pictures was all about. They didn't have any networks or sister networks back then, but Universal has been one of the most profitable brands that have done its own blockbusters, like Jurassic, Jaws, 50 Shades, Fast and Furious, Pitch Perfect, and especially everyone's most beloved Despicable Me. Now, that being said, is what I want to say particularly about Universal Studios. Carl Laemmle was the founder of Universal Studios, and he created all this complexity to become the most richest film producer there is. He has produced many films across the era and so on. He made some money. However, he lost the full rights to the studio in 1936, making J. Arthur Rank Organization acquire a stake in it to form Universal International, which was prevalent before Focus Features came in 2002. Now, moving on to the cable networks. USA was the first television network to ever have been part of the Universal portfolio. It was acquired by MCA, which owned Universal at that time in the 80s. Syfy Channel was also established in 1992, which was also a sister channel to USA Network. It also handled some sci-fi programs before it rebranded in 2009. It's not always true that USA and Syfy will be together with Universal under the same portfolio. By the time 2024 ended, NBC Universal announced that they would be spinning off most of their networks, especially USA and Syfy, and including digital properties like Fandango Movies and Rotten Tomatoes, which are part of movie making and movie box offices, into a new public traded company called Versant. And that affected the changes that Universal Kids would be shut down on March 6, 2025, which also includes USA and Syfy no longer being part of the Universal entry anymore as this changes, which is very sad for all the kids that loved NBC Universal and Universal Kids. Now they have to watch DreamWorks Channel, which is not even from this country and is outside the country. And otherwise, when I'm hearing all these announcements coming from NBC Universal and its parent Comcast, I feel very bad, and it makes me think that they're also gonna shut down USA and Syfy as well. I don't know if they're really gonna shut it down after the Versant spinoff, but if they're really gonna do it, I just gotta say I had a very good time exploring those two channels, especially because they're all gonna be spun off, and golf is no longer gonna be part of NBC anymore, and other sports will be included on the Comcast network. Rather than just that, not only is that happening to USA and Syfy, but look what MSNBC is doing. While you may think that MSNBC is still doing fine, well, guess what? They're no longer going to be MSNBC right now. Well, not in the future, because it will be renamed to MS Now, which is kind of like a dumb name to name your network. And this organization has been owned by NBC since many years ago. And worse, They even removed the peacock from their logo as well. And while you may think the abbreviation is Microsoft Next Original World, it's not. It actually stands for My Source News and Opinion World. It will not get anywhere to NBC. Well, when you kind of think of the name MSNBC, that is such a familiar word because it wasn't originally fully owned by NBC in the past. It was originally jointly owned by Microsoft and NBC, and which that abbreviation comes from them. Unfortunately, Microsoft divested its stake away from MSNBC, but at least NBC is still continuing to own it up until no longer. At least CNBC will still be CNBC, but it will not cover NBC News anymore, as NBC Universal is now finding it so unsustainable to have all three networks, and only will be keeping NBC as its core. After Seagram was acquired by a French investment firm called Vivendi, which is known for its investments, really cool, it was all merged with Universal and it was formed to be Vivendi Universal, which had USA, Syfy, and Universal all together, and especially handled probably Vivendi Universal Games, which was the predecessor publisher of one of those Crash Bandicoot games. Unfortunately, you may have not seen this, but Activision had its own predecessor of its own now iconic kids games. It used to be Vivendi Universal because Universal and Vivendi were once 4-year term relationship deal up until General Electric acquired Vivendi's assets, which Universal Pictures was going to be related to NBC, so it was going to be formed as NBC Universal. Now, that being said, General Electric was the 80% stake in 2004. The only difference about USA, Syfy, and Universal going to be related to NBC and Bravo is because only General Electric has more of the efficiency at that time. MSNBC and CNBC did not have the efficiency as NBC did with Bravo. But now, as you can see, now that you see that Versant will be a spin-off company, MSNBC and CNBC, all of them will no longer be related to NBC by the time it hits. I think it probably might be October 6th, according to Wikipedia. I don't know what it says, but although MSNBC and CNBC were noted, not only that, USA, Syfy, Oxygen, Rotten Tomatoes, Fandango, Gulf Now, and Sports Engine will all be spun off from NBC Universal and Comcast permanently. Well, or at least until whatever year they get together again. Whatever chooses the best. Maybe Disney might acquire Versant, which might get and Oxygen back to the Disney portfolio because Disney used to own and Oxygen part-time. The good news is Bravo is being kept with NBC Universal and Comcast, which has been successful because NBC Universal and Comcast really have found out that Bravo was much more sustainable because their reality shows were gaining much more attention than CNBC, MSNBC, Syfy, USA, Universal Kids, Chiller, and Oxygen. And sorry if I said Chiller, but Chiller was a television network that was from NBC Universal, but unfortunately got shut down in 2017, probably when I was, 9. And yep, that being said, NBC Universal is going to be much more shorter than you expect. So I adore the appreciation for Comcast and what it's doing for the entire world. I mean, Universal sure is making its way towards theme parks and filmmaking. So we'll make sure it will all go good by the end of 2025. By the way, I have to let you go. See you.